Hi there. In this video, we are going to talk about Postman Sandbox, what all external node modules and libraries are already built in Postman Sandbox, and what are the Node.js modules that are available into Postman Sandbox. So what is a sandbox? So this far we have been writing our pre-request scripts and test scripts, right? Both into Postman, and again, those are also getting executed on Newman, right? That is because of Postman Sandbox. So Postman Sandbox is a JavaScript execution environment that is available to us while writing pre-request scripts and test scripts for requests, both in Postman and Newman. So whatever code you write in these sections is executed in this sandbox. Okay. So now, what are the built-in external libraries that are available into Postman Sandbox? So the first one is AGV. It stands for another JSON validator. And remember, in JSON schema validation, the most important test, we made use of pm.response to have JSON schema, right? And there's another one which I mentioned that is available in the code snippet, and that is tiny validator 4, right? Point number 11 in this list, right? So then what is atob? So ASCII to base 64 encoding, and btoa is base 64 encoding to ASCII. Now what is that? So we have been using in our animal collection, right? We have been providing basic authentication, right? So how does basic authentication work? It's nothing. It's your username and password, base 64 encoding, right? So there might be a requirement, where you have to, let's say, send a particular header in base 64 encoding. Then you can make use of that, right? You understand the concept, right? It's like your value A and value B, and then you send the base 64 encoding, right? So with the help of this library, you can do the encoding. And the other one is the opposite of that. It's like decode that. So chai is, we have been using pm.expect. That's possible because of the assertions provided by chai, right? So chai also provides you another version which is assert, but so it provides you two versions, assert and expect. We use expect into Postman. Cheerio, let's say, so in our APIs, we have seen that the response was either XML or JSON. So if you are working on a website, right, so you see HTML DOM in the response, right? And if you want to retrieve anything or fetch anything from that HTML DOM, then how can you do so? So then you require this library, right? Which is nothing. It's a fast, flexible, and lean implementation of core jQuery. And you know that with the help of jQuery, we can easily manipulate DOM, right, by passing the element selectors, right, CSS selectors. Crypto.js, at times you have to follow certain standards, like you have to do AES encryption, you have to do AES decryption, on the request response, or maybe on some headers, right? uh, and also like SHA. So all these kind of things, right, are possible with the help of this Crypto.js, right? csv-parse, it's something like you got to convert your CSV into arrays or object, right? So with the help of library, then you can do so. The most important ones are Lodash and Moment, because these days we exchange data using JSON, right? So even in the REST API, it's like representation state transfer, and JSON is the way we exchange data between two different applications. So in JSON you get, so JSON document is what, either it could be a dictionary or it could be an array, right? If it's a dictionary, then inside that you'll have all those the basic data types, like string, numbers, booleans, and so on, right? So when you have to work on these, remember our first two test cases, first one was testing the structure, the other was testing the data. So of course, in our case it was pretty simple, right? We were just doing one dot operator and accessing the value if there are multiple hierarchies in your response, right? And then you require some kind of help, right, rather than writing everything from your own. And that is going to take time, and also it can cause problem. So then this library will be will come to your rescue. Moment.js, when you have to work on dates, because whatever data that you get back, in the response you'll see that as a string. So at times you got to convert that into date object. You have to fetch the years, months. You have to make some updates. You have to run some checks that the year should be less than this or month should be greater than that, and so on. So then this library will help you a lot in that. Postman collection SDK is a Node.js module that allow a developer to work with Postman collection. Using this module, a developer can create a collection, manipulate them, and export them in a format that Postman apps and Postman CLI runs can consume. I never use that. Tiny Validated already talked about. Universal unique UUID is universal unique identifier. It generates like a 20-bit unique number in case you require that. Next one is your XML2 JavaScript. So if you see that response into XML and you're more comfortable with Java, with the help of this library you can easily do the conversion, and it supports bidirectional conversion, right? So these are some external libraries. Then some Node.js modules are also available. Path, I mean, you require that utility to work with your file and directory paths, right? And I'm also providing how you can load these modules into your sandbox. And we'll see the practical example of those external libraries. Will only be understanding these from the theoretical perspective. Assert, like is we are using pm.expert from chai expect from chai, right? So we'll not be working on this, but the assert from the node js module is also available. So there's a buffer and there's a string decoder. They are kind of in the string decoder module provide an API for decoding buffer objects into strings. So we saw in our part 2 of this series that in the console, when I showed you the response object, the data was there in the form of buffer, those 2-digit numbers, right? So the string decoder module provide an API for decoding buffer objects into string in a manner that preserves encoding multi-byte UTF-18 and 16, right? So in our UI we were seeing the text, the string, but in the console we were seeing what? The buffer, right? So then util, again I've used that in one of my project, not into Postman, but what happened was we had one async function, and it is also applicable to promises. So if you want to convert those async functions and promises into your callback functions, right? So then you can make use of so you import util and then you call the util dot callbackify, and that is going to do the job. URL is a module that provide utilities for URL resolution and parsing, right? So for example, and this is how you're going to import this module: const URL equal to require URL, and let's say this is your URL and you want to url.parse, and this is your URL, sorry. So you want to parse this URL using this, and you get that, right? So you're storing all that value, whatever you're parsing, into this, and when you do the console.log, right, you will see a lot of properties associated with that. For example, the protocol, the authentication, right? This is username and password, username.password, and this is a domain, right? This is a port, and then the path and the query and the hash. So you'll see an object being returned to you. This module is already deprecated. If you go to the Node.js site, you'll see that it's already deprecated. What is it? It's a character encoding scheme defined by RFC 3492. Query string, I'm going to make use of that in my next video. Basically, this module provides utility for parsing and formatting URL query string. So we have some parsing available for URL, now specifically for the query string if you want to do any parsing and formatting, right? Stream is an abstract interface for working with streaming data into Node.js if you may require at some point of time. Timer, we have already used that in our retry logic video in the series, and there I use the set timeout. It is offered by this particular module, right? And event is also there. Again, I'm not going to use that, but they are some objects which are inherited, which belong to a particular class, and they emit events, right? So if you want to do something of that sort, if you want to emit some kind of event. So there's .on method, and then you can emit. Again, I mean, in testing may not be requiring this at all, right? So now the thing is, if you want to read about it, right, any of these, then where are the references, right? Don't worry about that. Just type Postman, click on Postman Learning Center, click on Docs, uh, click on Writing Scripts, Script References, Postman Sandbox. So see all the listing here. Let's say you want to look out for Lodash, click on this, and it will take you to the documentation of Lodash. Okay, so this is how you are going to find the references of all these items, right? Okay, so next what we are going to do is we are going to see some examples. And again, the thing is, because your requirement would be different, the whole agenda behind creating this video is that you can, if there is a specific requirement, rather than rewriting the code, and when kind of reinventing the wheel, why not use these libraries, right? They are not going to just speed up your work, but also ensure that all these errors are also gone, right? So it reduces the chances of you creating errors in your logic. Okay, so all you have to do is again understand. We will learn about the way we have to use it. So in most of the cases, right, you would be setting up a reference. So you're going to first load that, and whatever you're going to load, you're going to store that in the reference so that you can later reuse that, right? So all what we are doing here is sky to binary encoding, base 64 encoding. So this is a base 64 encoding, and we are using this reference. We are passing this value and logging it to the console. All right, let me clear that, and you see this is getting converted to hello world, right? Let's do the opposite of that. So we say b2, and there are certain things like if I show you, if I say just b2a, okay, b2a, right, and I have to say this is bin, okay, and let me cut this value, put it here, and let me just pick this, all right, and pass in the value here. And if I do this, right, this is my base 64. I'm just reversing it, right? And then okay, if I do this, see, I get an error. So b2a has already been declared. So somehow, it's currently not working. In this case, it would work into your Visual Studio Code and other projects that will create. And that's why I separated it like this. In some cases, you've got to do like this. And then if you do that, it will work. Okay. So this binary value is now converted to this, as you could see that. Okay. So we have covered first two, and we have also understood the first step is always to load the library, right? And if you give the same name here, at times it will give you the error. In some libraries it doesn't give that error. Let's do this one, right? And let's copy this. Okay, let me copy this and go to Postman. Click on this. First, let's check the response. Let me close the console, right? So if I do the send button, this is a plain static website that I've created, and what I want to do is I want to read this value, right? This is HTML, right? You could see that this is HTML response, and I want to read this. Now how can I do that? So of course, first step is to load the library, and this is the reference. All I'm doing is am.response, right? Dot text. I'm converting this HTML into a text and loading into that method, right? And then I'm finding again here I've passed the CSS, right? So with the help of CSS p.para, right? This is the CSS. With the help of this, I'm going to find this out, and once you do that, it will return you array. So I'm reading the first value and the first child, right? Let's open the console, clear this up, click on send. So you get this, right? Now all I have to do is do a dot, right? And this will return me the Tajman string. All right, so you see that value is returned. So that's about this particular library. It's a simple library for working with DOM model, useful if you're getting back HTML. We just saw that, and at times you have to fetch CSRF code, right? So this library will help you in doing that. Crypto we've already talked about. We need to generate the hash string for this format, right? You may have to do HMAC, SHI encryption, or AES encryption or decryption, right? So these are the things. And again, I mentioned that again you know go to the official website of it. You click on that, or all these are kind of node modules. So what you can also do is, right, you can come here and say npm, and that's a moment, right? You click on that, and this is a website, and this is a the page for npm moment library. Okay, uh, this is all right. So now next one is Lodash, and this is a very important library, like I already mentioned, because when you get the response back, this is going to be either JSON or XML, right? And what do you have in those? Let's talk about JSON document, right? So these days, I mean, in REST APIs, we use JSON more than XML. It's more convenient, it's more faster, it's more compact. So one of the example is okay. So what do you get? You get either the list, right, or you get a dictionary. Dictionary is nothing like it's an object, right? So inside that object, what do you have? You have those basic data types like string, your numbers, right? Uh, your booleans, right? An object can have arrays, and arrays can have objects, but when we reach to the tail, right, it's going to be all these basic objects only. All right. So then uh, and again, in our test cases, we talked about the most important test cases. Of course, there are two things, right? First, you have to test the structure of your model class, and second is to test the data. And when it comes to data, at times you have to, first process it, and then you can access that, right? So basically, this will help you in processing your request. For example, let's understand this underscore dot compact, and let's say this is the array, right? So what does this compact do? It takes out, it removes all those falsy values. So falsy values in this case are 0, nan, undefined, null. So therefore the result would be 1 2 3 5. So we want to work on a valid data. What is valid data? 1 2 3 3 5 1 2 35, right? In the next case is there's a find method, right? Underscore find method. So what does this function do? So you have an array uh, of objects, right? And you want to, with the help of this find function, what you are doing is you're passing in this array, and you have written a function through which you are going to find out all the objects whose age is less than 40. So find is going to return you the first matching object, right? The first matching object would be Barney, right? So if you look at the third object, which is at index 2, there also the criteria is being matched, but find will find only the first element. Ready is always start with index 0. If you do underscore dot find last, then publish would be returned. Okay, and let's spend some time on this. So go to the Lodash website and go to the documentation. So you will see that there are a lot of methods which we can use on arrays, right? There are just so many methods, right? You can find the last value, right, in within the array. You can find the nth value, right? You can reverse your array, right? You can slice it. Now the important thing that you have to understand in case of Lodash is, so you don't need to provide the first line where we load it. If you use underscore, so all you can do is dot, and you could say, let's use reverse, right? And let's pass in some value, and we say 1, 2, 3, right? And let me do the console log and verify. See if I'm using the correct syntax. The reverse is not a function. Uh, so I think we have used it correctly. What's wrong? All right. So it is saying it's not a function. Let's do one thing then. Let's say console.log, and let's use underscore dot capitalize. This is another method. Let's say I pass in test. All right, interesting. It is not recognizing these methods. Trust me, it was. I ran all these things some time back, and these were working. Let's open a new request. Don't say come here, right? It works. Go to the test section, and we say console.log and right underscore dot. Let's check the method. It is reverse, right? And then we pass in some value. We say 1, 2, 3. Amazing. So somehow this is not working. This is great. Let's do one thing. Let's say const and same syntax. Ref is equal to require, and okay, and now do this dash dot reverse, and then we say we don't want this 1, 2, 3, and console.log. So somehow it's not working with the underscore, uh, but it's mentioned, and then it has worked for me in the past. That if you are using, and that's why I've mentioned in here as well, so not required for underscore declaration. So if you are using underscore, then you don't need to even provide this, right? But somehow currently it is not working. So currently, yes, it is not working. So anyways, so better in that case is go for this particular syntax. The other thing that we have to notice here is Postman recently introduced this, intelligence that you start typing and you see all these things, right? So hints. So these hints are not available for these external libraries, right? So you have to open their website and do some reading and find out the relevant method in your particular case. Okay, just a couple of more minutes on this library. So there are methods available on arrays, right? So you can do the union, you can do the reverse, right? Then on the collection, you can do the find, you can do the filtering, you can do the find last, right? For each is also there. So for each, what you want to do. So for map, again, there's the transformation. So that is also available, right? The size, and you want to reject some, sort by on a particular way, on a particular order, then you can do so. On the function also you can do some equal to, greater than, equal to, is empty, is date, is boolean, all these things are there, is not a number, is regular expression. You can do all that. You can do the conversion to integer and to string and so on. Maths also, max, min, all these, ceiling, subtract, round, all these things are available. Numbers also in range, right? The minimum range and the maximum range, that is also available. You can do something on object level as well. For example, when you do the object.keys, right, it returns you the array of all the keys, right? And then on string you can do camel casing, capitalizing, right? So let's do the capitalize one. So we can say console.log, right, and use this, right, and we capitalize a string, right? So we pass in test and click on send and see it's capitalized, right? So yeah, these are all the methods, right? Properties, methods, all these things are there, right? So it is very important, and this is going to save a lot of time for you. Okay, next one is moment. So in Lodash there is only one method for date, so therefore we require this library actually, and this is again a very great library when you go work with dates, right? Again, very simple. First step is to load it. How you can load that? Const moment is equal to require moment. In this case this is going to work, so your variable name is matching with what you are loading. In case of A to B and B to A, it wasn't working, so there are some differences there, but that's fine. As long as yeah, our bigger problems are being solved, we can manage this much. So const moment is going to require moment, and then again the syntax is very simple. So if we pass on moment at forward and format and this, so it is going to return you the current date in the specific format, right? You can also parse any date, and then this is going to return you data in the form of ISO 8601 format. Then you can also retrieve the UTC dates. You can get year, month, minute, seconds, so on, weeks, right? And same way you can set it. So just see, I mean, there are so many things which you can do with the date thing. And again, for that we've already opened that. So it's a movement.js. That's the documentation, right? And here you could see you can parse things. Let's try this, right? So here, so all that, clear console, and if you do this, you see the current date. Okay, you can again play with this. You say mmddyy, or maybe just 2y, so you see date in the specific format. Okay, so this is it, and then what you can do is you can pass this date in here, see if it is anything. Yeah, it's the same thing. So what you can do is use this format, right? And okay, so I have to take this out, right? And then it gives us that ISO 8601 format. Okay, you can also get the UTC time by using um, moment dot UTC, and again see no hint is present, so you got to refer to that site, and now you see the date in the UTC format, right? And then there are a few more things which you can do. You can do year, so it will give you the year, right? If you do month, starting from 0, so it will give you the month. And we could do day, so the day is the today is Tuesday, right? So again it starts with Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, 0, 1, 2, right? So we There are a lot of things that you can do, and you can also get and set. So day of the year. So if you do this day of the year, right? So day will give you the day of the week, and day of the year will give you your 210th day of this year. Okay. All right. So this is about your another important library moment. Uh, XML to JavaScript object. Let's check that out. Again, very simple code, like I mentioned. If you get the response back in the form of XML and you want to work on JavaScript object, I mean, it's that simple. Just use this command, right? Use this method, provide your response, pm.response XML in the XML format, and then you can start working on that if you do this. So let's see that this is the XML, right? And it is being converted into an object. To check the type, we say type of, and then it tells us it's an object. So it's converted successfully, right? So these are the external libraries. And let's do one more thing before we end this. So in PM Sandbox, right, we have so many things available besides PM dot star. So PM dot star, like we have done PM dot iteration data, PM dot collection variable, PM dot environments, PM dot global variables, right? We have done PM dot request, PM dot response, right? So we have done all these things. There's another available PM dot info. We have also done PM dot send request. Only way we can send the asynchronous request, and again out of two type. This is a simple one, right? We did that in one of the example for retry, and you can also have a full-fledged SDK request when you are passing all these things, right? So PM dot variables, we covered that in the the scope of the variables section. Um, yeah, pretty much it, like cookies, PM test. We have been writing tests using PM dot test. So all these things are available into your pm.expect is your assertion. All these things are available within your sandbox. So what we have done this far is we have talked about these libraries, right? And we understood that these node modules are there. Timers we have already covered, right? I'm going to cover query string in our next video. All right. Now the thing is, what if I want to work on a library which is not listed in here? Then what we have to do is we have to use the eval function, right? So first we have to do, we have to read that file, right, the JavaScript file, and convert that into a string, store that into our environment variable, right? And then read that environment variable in our pre-request section, right, or in the test section where we want to use it. Okay. And then what we have to do is we have to, with the help of eval function, we have to bring it back into its original form so that we can run those functions. Okay, so that's how you can also add external libraries into your Postman tests. Okay, so this is a long video, and I understand for the beginners this is going to be slight complex to understand, but someday YouTube would be there, and this information will help you in understanding that you don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? You just have to refer to these libraries, and that way you will avoid making mistakes, and you will also be quick in generating the results. All right, thank you so much. I hope you like the video.